Now, India's Chandrayaan mission is carrying the hopes and dreams of 1.4 billion Indians to the moon. Now, even as we await ISRO's ambitious attempt to, even as we wait for the ambitious attempt of the lander Vikram to land on moon's south pole, there is another milestone that the mission has accomplished yesterday, right after the separation of the lander took place from the main propulsion module. Now, after the lander separated from the propulsion module yesterday, there are all eyes on the deboosting of the module. The deboosting maneuver actually refers to the procedure of slowing down the speed of the module to facilitate the commencement of the soft landing attempt that is going to be made on the 23rd of August. It's also interesting to note that the action positions the lander in an orbit where the closest point to the moon is just 30 kilometers, while the farthest point will be 100 kilometers. Now, as our third moon mission takes yet another step to realize its massive objective, ISRO has again released 2 videos showing a glimpse of the moon as captured by the lander position detecting camera. Now, interestingly, one of these was taken right after the lander module separated from the propulsion module yesterday. And while we talk about this video that has been released by ISRO of these images that have been captured by the lander Vikram through its camera, I am going to quickly bring to your notice, and unfortunately, okay, I'm going to come back to this. Let's quickly get in my panelists first of all. I'll come back to these explaining of the visuals as and when we have better visuals on our screens of the explanation. Okay, it seems as if we do have it. So now this is the propulsion module. So the lander, after having been separated, has now taken the first picture of the propulsion module, and this yellow light that you witness is actually the propulsion module that was separated. The next picture that we have are of the various craters that have now been clicked by the lander. Now, amongst these craters there is a crater called Harkebije, there is another crater by the name of Giordano Bruno, and there is a third crater by the name of Fabry that have been captured by the camera lens of the lander. And far right on top, if you can see, there is just a small glimpse of Earth that also gets captured in the camera. And these are the 4 images that we are going to be focused on, but also we're going to wait with bated breath because the deboosting maneuver is also now going to take place in just a short while. It's already 4. And within the span of the next 20 minutes, there is the deboosting maneuver that is likely to take place. Let's quickly remove these images from the screen. Let's quickly get in our panelists on the telecast. And all right, I have with me Dr. W. Selvamoorthy. He is the former distinguished scientist and chief controller of RAD-L 51 at DRDO. Dr. Selvamoorthy, it's great to have you on the telecast, and while the country at this point of time is with great gusto waiting for, we don't have Dr. Selvamoorthy, so I'm going to start off my conversation. I'd request my team in the PCR and in rundown to please let me know beforehand if we have the guests or not, so that I am not interrupted once and again and again. Meanwhile, Group Captain V. N. Jha, we've seen these visuals, the latest one, the latest images of lander. Just a few days ago, there were other images that had been released by the spacecraft as soon as it made a couple of those lunar maneuvers that had taken place. Now, if you could explain to us now, what is this deboosting maneuver? It's just bringing the lander to a speed that is then going to help it soft land and land on its feet when it lands on the moon.
Thank you very much, Megha, for having me here on your show, and also thank you very much for being proposing that or showing the entire Chandrayaan scientific part of it to entire viewers of yours all over India. So it's a great day today. Today, that deboosting what you mentioned is surely, you already mentioned that here the speed or velocity will be lowered. There are 4 engines in the Chandrayaan lander module. All these 4 engine, each having 800 newtons of the thrust. 800 newtons roughly translates to about 180 kgs of the thrust. So totally, you can have about 520 or 600 something or the thrust. So that is the boosting or deboosting what we've done. You rightly mentioned that by deboosting you reduce the velocity, but there is one related parameter in any orbit. In the equilibrium of the orbit, the moment you reduce the velocity, the gravity of that particular planet or star is going to pull that object towards it. So the moment we reduce the velocity, its altitude, its height will be also reduced. So today, when ISRO prepares for deboosting, before deboosting, they would have already tested all the systems, subsystems of the propulsion system, of the communication system, and all the sensors. If all these were absolutely fine, then only they will be going for deboosting and lowering of the altitude, because hereafter there is no return to the normal orbit. Right now, the propulsion module is already in the normal orbit, that is 153 into 163 kilometers, and that orbit will continue for months and years as long as some amount of fuel remains into that system. So that is how it is there today. By deboosting, velocity will be reduced. With the reduced velocity, Chandrayaan will be pulled towards the moon surface. Its altitude will reduce, and we foresee that, as ISRO had proposed earlier, this final path of the Chandrayaan 3 will be something around 100 into 30 kilometers of the elliptical orbit. The perilune, the closest point to the moon, will be 30 to 40 kilometers, and the furthest point from the moon surface will be about 100 to 140 kilometers, anything in this range. So this is what today it is going to be, because in this maneuver, ISRO will be putting the Chandrayaan into an orbit, into a direction into which the final landing path also lays in the line. Because hereafter, when the maneuver is over, the final trajectory of the landing, what will be there on 23rd, will be driven out of this. So this is a very intricate procedure, and I wish ISRO all the best. I'm sure they will succeed into it.
Yeah. Okay. I also have with me Wing Commander Sudhakar. Now, while there has been a detailed explanation that has been given by Group Captain V. N. Jha of what happens next up until the soft landing, what's also intriguing to know, and we have had a glimpse of it when Chandrayaan 2, the lander was looking to land, have a soft landing on the moon. While how there is going to be the lander that lands and the rover that gets out, Pragyan that gets out, and how that entire duration of time that was captured in those graphics, those moving visuals, those moving graphics was beautifully explained. So what happens when the soft landing of the lander takes place? What is the duration of time till the rover is then able to discover all the elements of the South Pole, the rare elements that it wants to at this point of time discover, and how much time will the rover have to actually complete its discoveries?
So one of the first things that we will have to deal with first is, apart from deboosting it and reducing the speed, right now, as we are given to understand, the lander module itself is vertically placed. This has to be now converted from a vertical alignment to a horizontal alignment, and that's a major trick that has to be played and achieved, and that's when this deboosting actually meets its purpose. Otherwise, we will end up landing pretty much at the same place where we landed before. So ISRO has done enough of simulations to be able to achieve this copybook style, and we hope that this will be materialized immediately, in due course of time. We have another 3 to 4 days to, complete this maneuver. So once this is there, I think it's around 1.68 kilometers speed that, the downward velocity that we are talking about. And once we achieve that speed, and then we are more or less sure that this will land, then comes the question of the lunar dust settling in post the landing, and then the lander, the Pragyan rover, will actually be let out from the lander module. This complete mission is got around 14 lunar days cycle. So what is the kind of time frame with which Pragyan is going to explore, find this detail? This also depends on with what efficiency and accuracy that the rover is able to perform its task. We should also understand that there are a lot of craters in the lunar surface. So while the Pragyan has been designed to navigate around these hurdles, but then all these things we will only come to know when it actually, the proof of the pudding is in eating it. Like when it navigates successfully and then be able to go there, that is when we will know. So how much of a time frame these are not something that we can estimate. We can probably give a guess, but then to accurately come to a correct figure would be very difficult. But in 14 lunar days time, this entire mission will gather significant amount of information and materials from this expedition, which will be helpful in due course of time. That is what I would.
Okay, Suresh Naik, also, it's also fascinating to know that what is it that the rover is going to find out. There are permanently shadowed craters, and how that will help us in determining the history of the Earth, and also talking about the larger, the solar system per se. How are the other planets that have been formed? Now, the temperatures that could be as low as minus 203 degrees Celsius, and therefore it becomes impossible for a manned mission to be taking place in South Pole. And what more can be found through this mission, and how is it going to help accelerate our knowledge about what lies on the South Pole and our knowledge about the existence of Earth itself?
Yeah, actually before that I would like to explain that the culmination of 4 years of hard work is going to start now in about 20 minutes. Okay, these are going to be the final moments of this very complex mission, and the success in the coming 5 days of operations will decide the fruitfulness of all our work for the last 4 years. So you can say the real match has started or is going to start soon, and final overs will be bowled on 23rd of August. Now, having said that, I would like to add one more thing, that you see, deboosting operation, I would like to explain a little bit more in detail. That is, of course, slowing down the velocity of the lander. That is definitely correct. But important thing is when it is slowing down and it settles down in the orbit of 100 by 30 kilometers, its position and orientation is extremely critical before it starts its landing process. So this is the pre-landing phase we are going to start now, and this orbital burns, that means firing the engine on the lander, is a process which I would like to explain a little bit further. You see, when right now the engines are in the opposite direction of the direction of the travel, so in that case no deboosting takes place. When the engines are reversed, so that they are in the same direction of the travel of the lander, then the braking will be applied and the velocity will start reducing. That is one thing. And this particular firing of the engine to reduce the velocity is normally done when the lander is at the perigee. I just wanted to remind that when you wanted to rise the orbit, we do the firing when the spacecraft or lander is at the perigee. But now, I'm sorry, the firing will be done when the lander is at the apogee. And that is how the process of de-boosting is carried out.
Okay. And while we are on the subject of how the deboosting exercise takes place, I'm just getting to know, we're getting information that the ISRO has tweeted out that the lander module has successfully undergone a deboosting operation that has reduced its orbit to a further 113 into 157 kilometer. The ISRO also mentioned that the lander module health is normal. We are also getting to know that the second deboosting operation is now scheduled for 20th of August, and this will take place around 2 p.m. on the 20th of August. So there you have it. And once finally the second deboosting takes place, the distance that the lander is going to be in against the moon is then going to happen 113 kilometers. It's going to be 100. Farthest point is going to be 100, and the closest point I think is going to be 50 or 53 kilometers. So there you have it. So Mr. Nair, Dr. Nair, then Dr. Nayak, sorry. Again, two of these deboosting maneuvers, which will allow for the speed to be reduced. And is it going to be then optimum for it to land for the soft landing? Is there 50 kilometers into 100 kilometers? That's the speed that is required for the landing to take place?
Yes, actually, that is, you see, when the lander is closer to the moon in its orbit, that is going to definitely help. And it's the last journey of actually touching the moon is, that much is going to be easier, because we have now mastered the technology of deboosting in Chandrayaan 2. And I think we have got enough experience, and I expect there will be no surprises in that. So the final thing which is going to happen on 23rd August is actually starting from, you are saying 15 kilometers now, 15 kilometers to 0 kilometer, right? So that is going to be the last and final journey of this entire mission. Now here, there are again challenges involved. That is, we have to reduce the speed in phases. First, it will be the hard braking, means we will be reducing the speed at a higher rate. Then in the intermediate phase, every time we will reduce its rate of velocity, and finally will be the soft landing phase, where the velocity will be around 2 meters per second. So these are the three phases it will be done. And now this time, just some time back, it was mentioned that before that, one more challenge ISRO will have to face when the lander is about to touch the moon, because there are 4 engines. Incidentally, now we have reduced one engine from Chandrayaan 2 to get over the earlier problem and the stability problem. So now 4 engines will be firing, and when the lander is about to touch the moon, a lot of dust will fly around the lander, and there are sensors on the lander, and the sensor are likely to be affected, in the sense that dust can settle down on that. So ISRO has taken precaution to reduce the number of thrusters from 5 to 4. That is a very important thing. And then after the lander touches the moon surface, then there is a camera on the lander, there is a camera on the rover when it comes out, and both will take each other's photographs. and we will get to see the selfie also. So that's the proof that India has landed on moon, and Tiranga also is there on the moon. And then afterwards, actually earlier it was mentioned that it will rover's life and lander's life is 14 lunar days. No, it is 14 Earth days and 1 lunar day. So that is the right thing. And secondly, the lander and rover are going to do important measurements and discoveries, like the seismicity, in the sense the moon quakes. About the moon quakes, information will be obtained on the moon. Secondly, the chemical and elemental composition of the soil and rocks on the moon, that we will come to know what type of minerals are going to be there. Then we also are going to have information about the alpha particles and the plasma, etc., things like that. And of course, we are going to look for water. And this information is going to be useful in a way that for the future human missions, this is going to be extremely important, because water is the basic thing. We can get oxygen, we can get food from growing the plants there, and also we can get fuel to come back from moon to earth. So these findings will be extremely important for our future missions.
Okay, all right. I'm out of time, but I thank you all for joining me on the telecast at 5 p.m. We are opening our phone lines. There's already the first deboosting maneuver that has happened. The second one is going to take place on the 20th. All eyes are on the Chandrayaan mission and its successful soft landing on the south pole of moon.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.